Welcome YouTube, welcome, this is the Gaming Rican here, coming at you live, or I should say pre-recorded, with a game that I have been playing quite a bit of lately, World of Warships. Now this game has been developed by wargaming.net, the same people who brought you World of Warplanes and World of Tanks. Now this is my first time playing any of Wargaming's free-to-play games, and I think that this one is really up my alley. Essentially what it is a massively multiplayer online game where you pilot, or should I say captain, naval ships for surface warfare on the high seas. Basically there are multiplayer objective modes like capture and hold, domination, and team-based games like that where, you know, either the one team will tend to gain victory over the other in either a point-based match or what usually ends up happening, sinking all of the enemy team's ships. Now, this game has been a breath of fresh air. I'm not going to lie, military history, especially naval military history, tends to be something I enjoy as a hobby, and on the side, you know, I buy the books and I go on, you know, the various websites dedicated to World War II era, World War I era ships, also of the colonial era. And basically how it works is that, you know, you can purchase, there's three types of currency here. You have your doubloons, which are purchased from the premium store, and they can be used to buy premium ships or free experience, things like that. Then you have your credits, which is earned by your in-game accomplishments, and your experience points, which is used to upgrade and purchase the various vessels in the game. Now, if we were to look at the tech tree here, we would see that there are 4 classes of ship with 3 nations on the side. Now, the classes of ship are separated by tiers. Tiers 1, which would be your basic starting ships, all the way down to tier 10. The 4 classes of ships are aircraft carrier, battleship, cruiser, and destroyer. Now what's really cool is that depending upon what kind of player you are, you can actually have some unit in this game that is more your liking. If you're like the sniper, the guy who sits in the corner and comes out and devastatingly hits with a well-aimed shot, then the destroyer class would be for you. Now these are the smallest class of ships, but they're extremely fast, extremely maneuverable. As you can see here by the statistics here, their survivability is probably the lowest, and what that just usually means is how many hit points or armor points that they have. But one of the things that is the great equalizer in this game when you're a torpedo captain, when you're a destroyer captain, are torpedoes. These floating missiles of death will bring down even the mightiest battleship. Now, I tend to like the cruiser class. They're your jack-of-all-trade unit. They basically have your speed, have your artillery, but they're mainly lacking in the armor category. But where they make up for their shortcomings in the armor category usually means that their turrets turn on target a lot faster than any battleship, and their amount of firepower they can put up per minute is also way higher than your battleships. So this game, now what I find extremely funny about a game like this is that it's free to play. It was a labor of love, in my opinion, to produce content like this that is so well balanced. And I mean, people are going to have issues here and there with balancing and unit differences. But what I think is really funny is that this is a free-to-play game that, unfortunately, is a hell of a lot balanced, or more balanced than some of the premium titles, especially on consoles. This is on PC, of course. You can download this today for the cost of $0.00 and just have yourself a go. If you've ever wanted to know what it was like for great naval ships to go toe-to-toe, mano-a-mano, with their broadsides and their cannons and their main batteries and their secondary armament, then I really recommend this game. I'm having a lot of fun with it. Now, basically rewinding back to the cruiser class, where they make up for in lack of armor is their speed, their speed of putting the guns on target. Their turrets usually rotate faster, and they can fire more rounds per minute than any of the other the other classes of ship. But what they do have in abundance, especially on the American side, is a very, very versatile armament. You have your powerful main battery. You have your secondary armament. Usually most of these do have a secondary battery, which will automatically engage targets within their radius. And then you have, what I love the most, anti-aircraft batteries. There is no finer example in this game of a cruiser with anti-aircraft abilities, especially when you go up against the battleship with its scout planes, and of course the aircraft carrier, which is nothing but planes. Now, the aircraft carrier was introduced between the world wars. It ended up replacing the battleship as the primary surface unit of most navies, whereas they were the weapons of war for their time. And you're kind of in a predicament, because unless you sink the carrier, the enemy planes can still harass you as a surface ship, and that's where the cruiser class comes in again, to fill that gap and provide protection for the other units in the form of anti-aircraft armament. Now, in the higher tiers, as you can see, the more expensive the ship gets, the more capabilities it has. And how they keep you playing is you can only earn these ships with currency and experience, so you're kind of forced to stay in your tiers. Like right now, I've only been playing this game for about a little over a week and a half, and I've only managed to unlock Tier 4 and Tier 5. However, it's going to take me quite some time to get myself into a New York class battleship, which, for those of you historians out there, is the same class of ship as the world-famous dreadnought, the USS Texas, which is now owned by the state of Texas as a naval museum, as a tribute to the dreadnought-style World War I battleship. So, with that being said, let's bring a unit review out onto the table. Right now, I have a Tier 4 cruiser called the Phoenix. Now, it's quite interesting that this unit here was never actually added to the United States Navy. It was a concept, a design on paper for a class of cruiser that was what we termed, what the navies of the world termed as a scout cruiser. Now, its capabilities here, its survivability is 30, which is adequate, but that is only after its hull upgrades that you have to purchase. So you really have to die a lot in this ship before you can get a survivability of 24,000 hit points. However, that's still not a lot compared to other cruisers. Its artillery then gets upgraded. Right now, it is armed with 10 152 by 53 Mark 14. I believe those are 6-inch guns, and you can see them here. They're mounted on the front in a group of 4. So you have a front arc if someone is essentially crossing your T, and your front is only facing, or your bow is only facing the enemy ship. You can still let loose with a barrage of at least 4 shots. The next group would be on the side. There's the top tier right there. If we look here, we have amidships, another cannon, rifled battery, and in the back you have another 4. It doesn't have a secondary battery though. Instead, it relies on its torpedoes, which are kept as 2 launchers of 3 torpedoes apiece on the near the midships section of the ship. These are again the great equalizer. When you find yourself accidentally in close quarters at least a range of 5.5 kilometers, you can really ruin someone's day. If I were to have a gripe about this style of ship, is that we sacrifice speed for armor yet one more time, and its anti-aircraft armament, although decent, is nowhere near capable of taking out an entire squadron by itself. If you have 2 cruisers like this sailing close to each other and the enemy torpedo bombers from the carriers come in, you can definitely open up and engage them, and you might be able to take out a few, but you would need concentrated firepower. The other thing I don't like too is their firing range. You have a 12.7 millimeter Mark II anti-aircraft machine gun, which I don't know if you can see, but it's just, I mean, right there. that with a range of a pitiful 0.9 kilometers. That plane would have to be really close. Now you have your secondary anti-aircraft battery, which is a 28 millimeter Mark II, and that's in quad batteries on the front of the ship, but they do rotate 360 degrees. And then you have your 76.2 millimeter by 50 caliber Mark X flak cannon. There's 4 of these. One there, one there, one there, and also right next to it. It doesn't put up a very impressive anti-aircraft spread, but it does save your ass. Here's the other thing. For such a... I mean, the ship itself is kind of long and thin and kind of sleek, but its concealment surface detectability range is 13.1 kilometers. Now, that means that an enemy can spot you before you're able to... You're 1 kilometer out from the maximum range of your main batteries, which means he can see you possibly before you could even effectively fire back on him or her. Otherwise, it's just a little bit of a... Hello? It's a little bit of a rude awakening when you realize you have to really use this ship in a very careful manner. Use its speed and stay out of range. Keep enemies in range of your main batteries, but maneuver away from theirs, because this thing cannot, under any circumstances, take a hit. So with that being said, let's take this guy out. Now, I am not very good at this game, I'm not gonna lie. You're probably gonna see me die. Now, we're doing this in a fashion where I'm not gonna I'm pre-recording all of this, but what you're about to see is me play the game, and I'm not gonna edit this footage, which means you're gonna see me be a noob, but that's okay, because that's what we're here to do. We're here to learn, and in my opinion, what better way than just jumping in the fray? Now, as you can see here, the mission is destroy all enemy ships or capture the base. So it is a domination style match, only with 1 point in the middle. It's basically a race to the middle and capture this point. What we have here is, on the enemy team, we have 1 Langley class aircraft cruiser, or aircraft carrier, sorry. We have 1 enemy battleship of the Wyoming class, which is a tier 4, and a South Carolina class battleship. 2 Phoenix cruisers, and they are armed with torpedoes, so they're what we're to watch out for. And a St. Louis and a Tenryu cruiser. The St. Louis, being an American cruiser, has about something of the unbelievable amount of 16 4-inch guns, so it can just sit there and just pepper me with fire. Whereas the Tenryu has torpedoes. So again, we gotta sit there and be careful. Now, what I'm gonna do right now is take a look at the map, and I think that the best place for me would be right here. I'm gonna move full speed ahead and see if I can catch this enemy cruiser, which now has disappeared off my radar. But we know he's back there. That's a Phoenix. We're gonna try and engage that Phoenix at maximum range and see if we cannot hit them. Now, I loaded up some armor piercing. Let's see if we're gonna get a hit on that. Probably not. We were close. You gotta have some pretty good lead. I think I'm only gonna connect with 1 of those shots. Yes, I did. We're closing within 8 kilometers. I bring the camera back here and see. And he got my steering. What a jack. I got his turret. Broadside. Going for a torpedo run. I'm pretty sure he's going to try and nail me with torpedoes, so I'm going to try and turn out of his way. My rudder's jammed, which is just very, very convenient for this jackass.
Torpedo, dead ahead.
He's going to hit me. Nothing I can do about it either. Well, that was a quick round. Let's see if this... Wait for it. Those torpedoes are still in the water. Can I avenge my death? Oh yeah, one of them's definitely... Oh, they're all gonna miss. What the fuck? Now that was some kind of lucky shit. He basically managed to knock out my steering with one frickin' shot. It's one of the major gripes about this damn unit is that every time I get hit by an enemy shell, it seems to cause one status or the other. My steering was locked, which means I couldn't turn out of its range of fire. And he was able to lay those torpedoes on me, and I could not evade. But I really hope this guy gets it. He managed to... That was a horrible match. 6 hits with one critically damaged ship. And they rammed each other. Well, at least he's out of the equation. Let's take a look at what else we have here. Phoenix class, another one, same ship that I was. And he's just kind of sitting there. I don't know what he's waiting for. Oh, that's... Here we have the Wyoming class battleship. Look at that giant fat fuck. Look at those guns. Alright, what else we have here? We have a St. Louis class World War I cruiser. And again, this thing has a lot of freaking guns too. And they have torpedo planes in the air. There's the aircraft carrier launching its flames. Getting hit because no one's protecting it. And again, if I were to review the unit of the Phoenix class carrier, or a cruiser, I would sit there and say that it has this tendency to basically fold like a deck of cards once it takes any type of fire, whether it's one shell. I seem to get a lot of statuses on this. Every time I get hit, it's either a frickin' steering problem or a turret problem. Now, I really love light and fast units like that, but come on already, you know, like... I couldn't even turn out of the way the first shot, and I didn't have enough time to use my repair ability to get my steering back before I got nailed by this torpedo. Well, I hope you enjoyed that. That is the video that I'm giving you about my interpretation of World of Warships. Now, one of the coolest things about World of Warships is that I cannot really give you my whole opinion yet because I'm only tier 4, but I really, really hope to bring all of you more videos if you're so interested based upon unit reviews as a whole. It's kind of hard to review a massively online game like this because of the fact that your experience has a lot to do with who you play with, but the community so far has been wonderful. The game developers so far have been wonderful, and this is something that I've just really see myself getting into and playing more, especially when it goes from open beta, before it goes from the open beta to the actual game itself. So, with that being said, I wish you all a fantastic evening, and be safe out there. The Gaming Recon signing off.